Hello, everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. Welcome to our Friday series where we are going over popular Bible verses that are often misapplied. I hope that this series will help you understand these passages properly so that you will know how to apply it properly to your lives. As the saying goes, a text without a context is a pretext for a proof text. In other words, if we fail to understand the context of a particular passage, then we will end up misapplying it to our lives. Today we will be looking at Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. People assume that this verse teaches that God works everything for good. Is it true that no matter what you go through, God will make it good? Is it true that when your loved one died, that God was doing it for good? When a tsunami hit a city, was God doing that for good? Let's jump in and find out. Up to this point in the book of Romans, Paul has been talking about how all of mankind and creation is suffering because of sin. People suppress their knowledge of God in unrighteousness and choose to worship idols instead of God. The law given to the Jews was not enough to save them, since they never obeyed the law completely. The world is suffering from the effects of sin, as evidenced by death, diseases, and disasters all around us. So with this dark backdrop, where can a person find hope? Hope comes from trusting in God's promises. Paul wants believers to place their confidence in God, knowing that all the disharmony and chaos that they witness in the world is under God's sovereign hand. At this point, Paul gives this promise that God works all things together for good. So what does this verse mean? First, I want you to look at the recipients of this promise. Do you notice what Paul says? That we know for those who love God. God does not promise to work all things together for good for people who do not love him. So who are the people who love God? Paul describes them this way: those who are called according to his purpose. The word called refers to those who have heard God's call through the gospel and have responded by faith. He later describes the called as those who have been justified. Paul further describes those who are called for those whom he foreknew. The word foreknew does not mean that God just knows us intellectually. The Jewish understanding of this word means to know somebody intimately. Sometimes the word know in the Old Testament is a euphemism for sexual intimacy. God might know everybody intellectually, but only for those who are called does he know intimately, namely the church. So we have seen whom this promise is for, but how does this promise unfold? Notice what Paul writes: all things work together for good. The phrase work together for good means that God will bring everything about for good. Let's focus on the phrase all things work together. Paul did not say that everything will work itself out. This means that when we are in a difficult situation, we are not just told to sit on our hands and expect it to work out. Paul also did not say that we work all things out. That means that when we are in a difficult situation, the solution is not just that we work harder and get ourselves out of the problem. Paul is saying that God works all things together for good. Do you also notice that Paul did not say that all things are good? He says that all things work together for good. When that person hurts you, that was not good. When you lose a loved one to death, that was not good. When you are a victim of injustice, that was not good. God created the world and everything in it to be good. And he did not create sin and the effects of sin. So this promise does not minimize your pain. And it does not simply say to just have positive thinking. Some things you go through in life will not be good. So what does this promise mean? We need to define what God means by the word good. Sometimes when a person is suffering, we might be tempted to say, it's good for you to get sick. It would only make your immune system stronger. Or it's good that you got fired from that job. Another door will open for you. But that is not what Paul is saying here. Look at the very next verse. He also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. What God is working everything towards is this result, that we will be conformed to the image of Christ. God initiated this whole process of salvation so that we would eventually resemble Jesus. This is what God means by the word good. He is not talking about your career or your money. He is promising that he would change your character to become more like Jesus. How will this happen? Through all the experiences that God allows in your life, including the bad things. Listen, life will not just work out your way just because you love God. In fact, for God to work all things together for good, he must allow you to fail. For example, I have a certain type of picture of what kind of person I want my sons to become. I want them to become men who are mature and who love God and who value the gospel above the American dream. But for them to become that type of person, I would need to allow them to suffer at times. How would they show compassion towards others if they've never gone through trials? How will they live with gratitude if everything is handed to them? In the same way, how will our character look like Christ if we never suffer? Although God does not promise to get rid of all suffering, He does promise that there is a purpose to our suffering, which is to become more like Christ. This means that nothing in life will stop us from reaching God's goal for us. Your sin will not stop you from glory, when you will never struggle with sin anymore. Your grief in life will not stop you from reaching glory, when you will no longer cry tears of sorrow. And until we are fully glorified and sin is erased from our souls, we will not see God's plan completely. This means that we might not get the answer on why God allows certain bad things to happen to us, but we do know how things will eventually turn out. We will be conformed into the image of Christ, and all things, including bad things, are working towards that result. Sometimes we look at our lives like we look at the backside of a quilt. We don't see the design, and all we see is the messiness of all the yarn. And if all you see is the backside of the quilt, then you won't see the purpose to your suffering. But when we turn the quilt over and see the design, then we start to see the purpose to our suffering. We start to see how the messiness of our lives are conforming to this image. We see how depression, death, financial loss, divorce, disease, hatred, racism, and murder is working towards this result. We only see the backside of this quilt in our lives, but in glory, God will flip the quilt over and we will see the full picture. So is it true that no matter what you go through, that God will always make it good? Not quite. God promises so much more than a successful life on earth. He promises that one day we will be like Christ and be with Christ forever. And that is a promise worth holding on to. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with a friend. If you missed the last video where Jesus is knocking on the door of a church, I'll leave a link for you here to watch. Until next time, see you.